What's going on there, Plotaholics fans? I'm Bryan Tan, and this is another edition of Tan Talks. Joining me, week 2 of our Moon Knight breakdown, my buddy, your buddy, Squirrely Mat from the Produce Stand podcast. Squirrely Mat, how the hell are you, my friend?
I'm good, my friend. How are you?
Not too bad. We're here to talk about your daddy, my daddy, Oscar Isaacs as Moon Knight. Now, let me ask you this, starting right out. Let me just hit you right out of the gate. Was episode 2 what you wanted after episode 1 was over? Because you said at the end of our first recap that there were a lot of questions that you wanted answered, and there were a lot of things that you wanted explained in the second episode. Was that done to your satisfaction this time around?
No. I'll straight up say no, and then go back a bit. So
let's start out with what didn't get done first.
So I definitely had apprehensions, right? I mean, I gave it a huge rating last week. I felt they hit it off with a bang. I loved everything about the pacing, but I had concerns because they set up a format that I knew they couldn't stick with it. It wouldn't have happened. I had some hopes they might, but I knew it couldn't work. So if we go to like Letterkenny World, a lot of other things, to me, episode 1 was the cold open. They came with a big bang. They gave you lots of things to bite onto and get curious about. And now they're taking a step back. I mean, yes, the story is still moving forward. I still want that. What's going on? There's still a ton of questions, but they've definitely slowed it down. They went really into story heavy this episode, introducing new characters, setting the stage of what his relationship with himself is going to be like.
I love the way you put it like that.
So I think there's a lot going on, but it definitely slowed down. I enjoyed it, but there were definitely some things and left me with more questions, I think, than anything.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions as well. Now, one of the things that you and I both talked about last week that we loved and we wondered how it could continue was the blackouts when Mark takes over from Steven.
Yeah.
And, because we were all from Steven's perspective, and then he would black out, and then we would get brought back when he was awake again.
Yeah.
And that was something that you especially said you were curious as to how they would be able to do it.
Yeah.
And you're right. They didn't do it. It's almost like now that we know that he has dissociative identity disorder and he knows he has this, that really sucks the mystery out of it.
Yeah, it does. Well, and we'll talk about her more in a second, but Layla was introduced, the wife, which with everything going on actually created more questions that I came with.
Absolutely.
Around, again, I still go back to who was here first? Who's the origin story personality?
Who was originally in charge of this body?
Right. And then she introduces herself as wife. So then I'm like, hold on a second here.
Wait a second.
We've gone before where he's disappeared for a couple days. He's got this whole life as Steven, an apartment, but then you see this storage trailer. You meet this wife. You're like, okay, these things don't happen.
And you've been gone a month. You've been gone a month. Over a few months.
Well, exactly. So you're like, how long is this entirety of this personality split been happening for? How did it kick off? Who the first person is? But then again, why is this still so new to Steven? He clearly tied himself down before, but the story they're telling makes you think like he's disappearing for months on end at times to establish this marriage, to establish this secondary life. But then there's a reference Layla makes at one point, like, oh, I thought maybe you got kidnapped again. Now I'm like, is that what he used to tell her? Oh, I was kidnapped when he disappeared and became Steven. So I'm like,
or even with Khonshu says the who we find out the Egyptian moon god who Mark/Steven is the avatar for. Yes. He said, when I found you, you were dead. You were dead.
So is there a whole other personality is what I'm thinking.
Right. Or is Mark the OG and Steven is who he became due to dying?
Yeah.
Which now opens up the question, is there actually reincarnation? And I'm not saying that to be facetious. I'm asking a serious question.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
What is
we're
the
following Egyptian lore here, so there's a lot going on, and you're not wrong.
Which I don't know a lot about, admittedly.
Yeah.
It asks a lot of questions.
Yeah.
In this second episode.
Absolutely. So tell me, what's your perception of Layla? What was your take on that? What were your initial impressions? Where do you think this story's coming from?
I love the fact that that the MCU as a whole and Disney are getting away from this damsel in distress BS. I'm glad that we are getting badass, capable women characters. And I mean, it started with it got started with Peggy Carter back in Captain America: First Avenger. I love the Layla character. I will really be disappointed if they start making her default a lot, because she came in straight up capable.
Yeah.
Like from the jump, when you're hearing her on the phone, she's all worried and like freaked out and blah, blah, blah. And then when she shows, number one, she tracks him down. She shows up and saves him. She's coming at him. She's demanding answers. She's not asking. She's demanding answers, and she is whooping ass, and she is making decisions.
Yeah.
Well, I love it.
Yeah. Here's another interesting take. So yeah, I think there's a lot to her story. They're gonna reveal a lot more. I think like the next episode is gonna be a lot more focused on her.
I hope so, because they only have 4 more episodes.
Exactly. So I think we need to learn more about her. I mean, there's some confusing things even in her story. Like, so all things you said were spot on, but then all of a sudden she serves divorce papers. And so I'm like, what is happening here? I'm going to throw a weird nugget of thought in there, knowing that we're dealing with a split personality situation. There's a moment where I question the connection with Layla and her reality. I'm sure I have to believe she's real, but the moment when they're in his apartment and they're talking about things, he's showing the hieroglyphics and things of that nature, they almost seem to be the same personality, Steven and Layla. So I don't know if the Steven character was a split taking on traits of her. I minus the badass aspect, but from a mental standpoint, it almost seemed like they were entirely in sync during that conversation where she was like, yeah, I know this, like very surprised. So there was something
you're talking about things that I already know, and like it's news. It's almost like, it's almost like maybe, and this leads to me more that Mark is the OG personality, but Steven is those aspects of Mark that she fell in love with. Mark is only doing this to protect her, because she's his next Khonshu's next avatar. Khonshu's next avatar. So I think that also leads a lot to your question, because I think that connection between Steven and Layla might be part of the reason why she's the next avatar.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, absolutely. There's something there that has it. The curtains haven't been revealed there, and I'm wildly interested in what's going on with that. There's a confusing gap. There's gaps in the story bit, but I'm okay with that as long as it makes sense in the long term. But it definitely raised a lot of flags.
Absolutely. And I want to talk about the Mr. Knight persona that came out, which I thought was really, really funny. Like, I knew nothing about it. I sort of read up on it, and I think it's very, very interesting how each person, like both personalities, both of these characters have their own different manifestation of the overall connection to Khonshu.
Yeah.
But, bro, Ethan Hawke is just getting better and better.
Yeah, let's talk about the cult now.
Each episode. One thing that I have always been hypercritical about is the death of villains. I hate the death of villains because eventually you're going to run out. The Arthur Harrow character played right now masterfully, because I have never seen Ethan Hawke perform badly. Another guy who does not perform badly. This Arthur Harrow character, they better not kill him off, because, bro, you've got Ethan freaking Hawke.
Yeah. But here's why I think they're going to. It's, to me, this is another, and I picked up on this, so let's talk about the cult for a second. He's got this following. They seem like this happy, welcoming little place. We're all in this together. We're sharing knowledge. We love each other.
I'm on a team, but I'm kicking a soccer ball with kids because
but we've got a sinister motive here. When they talk about the scales and balancing out the world and cleansing, this is another Thanos complex here, where we need to tap into everyone, mass kill all the bad. I know, slightly different angle. So,
but it's still there. Like,
it's still there. But the other thing, as I was watching, they're talking about, and I can't remember the god that he Emmet. That Harrow is connected with.
Emmett.
Who he is the avatar of. You know what I got a vision of, a reminder? It's like Minority Report's pre-crime unit, right? Like they're playing in this whole
before
assumption.
you can do
anything.
anything.
There's this massive assumption and really gray area of justice here happening where you're executing people based on something they may do on a vision. They could do, but nothing's happened. So you're in a very dark space there. And I really thought of Tom Cruise in Minority Report. And same idea, right? It's
oh my God. And I loved Oscar Isaacs as Steve Grant, where he's like, you're talking about killing babies. I can't get behind that. I don't understand.
It's fucked, man. So this is really a very dark.
But at the same token, I'm like, but wait a second. If you kill baby Hitler, it's that same argument. It's that same conversation.
I know.
Do you snuff out innocence based on what could happen?
Yeah.
Because it also leads you to another philosophical discussion. Yeah. I can't remember who said it, but I think it was the Joker said it to Batman. Mm-hmm. The difference between you and me, one bad day. Yeah. And it's true. So it's like, is it good to be reactive or is it good to be proactive? It is a very thin line of balance.
Yeah.
Very thin line.
Yeah. And they play with this in movies a lot and TV a lot where they kind of do that what if theory and then build stories around. So that's exactly what this is. Emmett has got this way of seeing the future allegedly and are making decisions and purifying the world based on that. But we'll never know if they were right or not.
With this cult and with the goddess Amet and with what Arthur Harrow is doing, this is a very, very gray area. But that's what makes him such a great villain, because he does not see that what he's doing is bad.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this real quick before we wrap up. Is the CGI still a problem for you? Because once again, he's fighting a creature of the gods. And now we start to see the gods. We not only hear Khonshu, but we see him and we're getting more of an understanding of what's going on. So a lot of the mystery that we had is now gone. We're seeing Marc more in control. We're learning more about Marc's situation. We're seeing all of this now.
Yeah.
Is the CGI aspect of it okay with you, or are you not noticing it, or is it still a disappointment?
Yeah, no, it's a bigger question. So, let me leave with this. So there's more than a wrap up conversation here. I don't like the suit. I'll be honest. Okay. I don't like the suit, either version of it. I'm not sold on it. It feels kind of off to me. I don't know.
Because we know what the problem is that we're so used to these practical MCU suits.
Yeah.
Now we're getting our first real aspect of mystical. Well, not the first, but a different because even Doctor Strange's his clothes are based in reality.
I'm okay with Doctor Strange. I have no issue.
Well, because all he has is that cape.
Yeah.
Where now we're almost going. We're getting dangerously close to going back to Green Lantern type CGI animation, right?
Yeah.
With this suit.
Yeah. So that all said, I mean, I don't like it. Maybe it'll grow on me. I'm not getting hung up on that, but I don't love the suit. The part which I think was the most powerful aspect of this episode was the battle with himself as the who's going to take control, what's happening. You know, he takes over, like you said, his personification of the suit, which is kind of cool.
Mr. Knight.
Yeah, Mr. Knight, and then Marc takes over as Moon Knight. But even I think the most powerful thing was the ending when they've switched roles, and now you catch Steven in the reflection, and he's like, "Is this what it's like?" Right. Now that was a mind fuck to me, because if you think of the opposite, Marc has been living like this for a long time, and that goes back to who's the OG personality, who's living life trapped in that mirror of lack of control, watching your life go by. That's a terrifying aspect. So I thought that was a very powerful scene. And I imagine as I go forward, yes, I lost the quick cut style like in episode 1, but now I think they're going to be bouncing back and forth as Steven learns to control Mr. Knight or Moon Knight more. We're going to get different flavors of the two of them bouncing back. And I think there's going to be a place for both of them as we go forward, where each personality is going to be better suited for different types of situations. And
I just don't want to see them merge the two personalities. I don't want that.
I love the two. I love the two. Yeah. There's a home.
I love it too.
And there's a reason. Just really quick. They say when there's a split, often key aspects of your personality have split. So emerging becomes a
Right.
hybrid of the two, but there's reason that personality came, because whether it's like a contrast to the other or whatever, but they are in some kind of a balance. So I love the both.
Right.
I think they play well together, and I hope they keep them.
I said this last week. I'm going to say it again. Moon Knight is a breath of fresh air because we're finally getting something that's against the formula of the MCU.
Yeah, nothing about this feels like MCU to me.
No, it
But
doesn't.
I'm enjoying it, but it definitely doesn't feel MCU. It's a very different flavor of everything.
So let's go to our ratings now. For those that don't know, we're sort of combining the Plotaholics and the Produce Stand because we're both a member of each mythos at this point. We're sort of entwined now with the Plotaholics rating system. We have a shot system, 0 shots if it's perfect, 5 if you need to get alcohol poisoning to get through it. And with the Produce Stand, it's either fresh, clearance, or compost.
You got it.
So where do you have this? Where do you have this on the Produce Stand in regard, and then in comparison to the Plotaholics?
Yeah, I won't dance around. From a Produce Stand perspective, it's a clearance. I'll put it right in the middle. And from this one, I'll give it on your rating scale. I'll give it a 2. I think there's some gaps in here. Like I said, I had high expectations. Some of what I expected to happen did actually happen, but I didn't love it. There's a lot of holes. I'm still heavily engaged and excited to see where it goes. I'm hoping they ring some of it in. Very cool show so far, but there's definitely some holes. So it would take me a couple drinks to get through this one. I rewatched it a bit this morning just to kind of recatch things because I found there was a few scenes that went a little slow. So now they've set Layla in, they've set some characters up. Let's get this thing moving again.
Right. I see. Here's my thing. I have to do things in a sense of individually plus as a whole, because are they holes or are they there to leave us guessing? Maybe. Are they there to keep us engaged? And that's where I sort of sit. So on a Produce Stand podcast, on a Produce Stand end of it, I'm going to give it a low fresh, just barely away from clearance. It's just at that cusp because I feel like it really rides all the positives of episode 1, but now they're still setting us up. We got more action. We're getting more aspects of it, but now we're getting the flip side. And then on the Plotaholics, I'm going to put it at a 3 shot because because here's the thing. You're right. There are a lot of holes. There are a lot of questions. There's more questions than answers. And while I don't want all my questions answered in episode 2, I think the loss of something brand new, like the loss of time, I missed that already. And once we do our final recap of the season, I'll probably come back and change it. But for right now, I have it at that.
Yeah.
All right, guys, with that being said, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the Plotaholics podcast and to the Produce Stand podcast here on the YouTube. Also, make sure you follow Squirrely Mat at The Dude North and follow the Produce Stand at Produce Stand Pod. Correct. On the Twitter. Make sure you follow the Plotaholics at Plotaholics or me at Bryan Tan, author on the Tweet Machine. We'll be back next week with episode 3 of Moon Knight.
Yeah, boy.